Welcome to the Don't Panic, It's Just Data podcast, where we have a weekly conversation with people who are impacting the enterprise tech landscape. My name is Wayne Eckerson, and I'm president of Eckerson Group, a boutique data and analytics consultancy that specializes in creating actionable data strategies and bespoke solutions for commercial and nonprofit organizations around the world. Today, I'm speaking with Jacob Larson from the city of Omaha about its usage of FME from Safe Software and ongoing projects. Welcome to the show, Jacob.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you, Wayne.
So let's dive right in. Jacob, can you tell us how the city of Omaha first started using Safe Software's FME for asset management and how that expanded into other projects like parking and mobility?
Yeah, so City of Omaha in 2017 into 2018 started using FME for their street maintenance division's kind of asset permitting for street excavation permits and city pourbacks. And so kind of behind that is they needed to get a system and permitting up and running in order to kind of fast track permitting process, city staff time, and just really getting that kind of full picture of what's going on for street maintenance. For parking and mobility, we started analyzing where e-scooters were. So in 2018, e-scooters were piloted for the city of Omaha. And so we needed a system in order to track those scooters and figure out where they were going and get those kind of baseline data numbers and for billing purposes.
Oh, perfect. So Omaha scooter and bike sharing programs are growing rapidly since you initiated them. Could you walk us through how you're using FME software to support real-time tracking and automation?
Yeah, so how we're doing it today and how we built it, it really hasn't changed since we built it in 2019. So how we're doing it today is a requirement for our RFPs for e-scooters is you have to have a data sharing agreement. And so with our scooter providers that are here, currently the provider is Lime. And so we have a data sharing agreement with Lime that gives us access to their API endpoints for where the scooters are within the city of Omaha boundaries. Kind of how what we run is FME. We built some transformers and some workbenches that query that Lime system and then kind of plot different points on an internal GIS map for us. We have different, I guess, say, boundary or pricing areas where scooters are allowed to be and not allowed to be. And so how we're doing it today is our automatic enforcement areas, FME, is running every minute and pinging the Lime scooter trip endpoints and status changes. And so using GBFS, we're able to then overlay our automatic enforcement or no ride, no park zones. And from there, we can then basically get a query of where those scooters are and start tracking when they first initially show up in those areas. And then secondly, how long they're staying in those areas. And then the end goal for us is to provide that real-time information to Lime. So they'll get a 15-minute notification saying, hey, an e-scooter has been parked in a no park or no ride zone for 15 minutes. Please go move it. And then after 2 hours, they'll get another information email to their customer support line, basically saying, okay, it's been 2 hours. We have assessed a fee. So for the city of Omaha, they have up to 2 hours to get those scooters moved out of areas where they shouldn't be. Since 2019, we started off with pretty much just basic areas where we didn't want scooters, and then it's kind of grown as more property, more people use them. We have a lot of private entities that kind of say, we don't want scooters going through our parks, going through our parking garages, or if they're causing issues. So as 2019 up until 2024, we've kind of expanded where scooters aren't allowed to go.
This is really interesting. I was going to ask you, why is the city tracking the real-time location of these scooters? But obviously, it's to keep them out of places you don't want them. So I assume that Lime is also tracking where their scooters are too, right?
Yes, yeah. So Lime does have their own backend dashboard, and then we provide shapefiles or GeoJSON files to Lime of our no ride boundaries. And so, yeah, they are aware of where they are. But yeah, it's just kind of like that positive feedback between Lime and the city. And so that we're kind of, everybody knows what's going on, and we're providing kind of that equal opportunity for both sides to.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I think Omaha's being very proactive, because you could just tell Lime, hey, we don't want scooters in these areas, and if we find them, you're responsible. But you're going a step further and using data to actually track the scooters and enforce your own regulations. So it's kind of like the old trust but verify, right? And you want to partner with Lime, but you don't necessarily trust them. You're using data to verify that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's the rationale, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then more recently, so we started off with just the email notification directly to their support line. But kind of as the program has evolved, we have our own Omaha support line that goes to the Lime representatives in Omaha. And then we also have a Slack kind of, I guess I'd say, group chat, to where we have members of the Omaha staff in a Slack group, and the automated enforcement messages are going directly to that Slack information. And so they're able to get the email kind of from a top-down level, and then we have direct notification straight to the field staff to move scooters when they need to be moved.
That is really impressive. And you're also sending GIS files as well to actually show where they're specifically located?
Yep. Yeah. So we have from downtown Omaha, so the Missouri River flows to the east of downtown Omaha. And so basically from Missouri River all the way out to 72nd Street, which is kind of central Omaha, we have multiple areas where scooters aren't allowed to be. And yeah, it's been working really great with Lime. And we send, if we have a file update or somebody requests that they don't want scooters in a different city park or in a different parking garage, or for some reason somebody decided to use the scooters in a not an e-scooter type way, we would be able to send that file to Lime, and they can update their system as well. So it's kind of back and forth between both of us.
Great. Well, you mentioned parking as well initially. So I know that one project that you're doing is on the parking side, I believe, is meter hooding project.
Yeah.
How has that process been automated through FME?
Yeah, through FME. So before we started using FME, it was back and forth of editing multiple Excel files, sending those files to multiple people. The usual Excel, when you have multiple users, everybody gets locked out when somebody's in there.
Yeah. And
so since we started moving to an automated platform, basically we're using our work order system has an API that we built out. And so we're reading that API and then sending information over to a GIS map, which will be coming soon for internal use. So it will basically pull in all the pending work orders, send those to a map, and then show the meter hooding where it needs to be hooded. So kind of highlight different points on the map and show a yellow, like this is pending. It'd be red, as an example, it'd be already hooded. And so we're kind of using data from our online permitting system, pushing that into a GIS layer, and then also pushing that into a daily Slack message. And our daily Slack message sends at 3:00 every day. And that would be for meter hooding for in the morning or unhooding during the day. And that's kind of how we do road construction work in Omaha. So if you're closing down a section of the street and it does happen to affect parking, we'll go out and put meter bags over the meters and kind of give users the representation that you can't park here. There's going to be, or there already is active work going on.
Oh, I was about to ask you, what is meter hooding? But you just explained it quite well. Well, let's talk about parking availability. Users, citizens, residents come into Omaha and they want to understand where they can park, what is available, what's not hooded. And it sounds like you've also created a real-time parking availability map. Why don't you explain a little bit about what you've done there and some of the key challenges and innovations?
Yeah, so definitely, yeah. More recently, we did a complete overhaul of our on-street and off-street parking system. And so FME kind of allowed us to query data at a very large rate and extract data and push it into other data formats where we couldn't do that before. For on-street parking, we have data coming in from our multi-space meters, which is kind of like a pay station, and then all of our mobile payment apps. And so basically what we're doing is FME is querying the API from these parking vendors and then doing kind of an occupancy calculation on the fly based on our total number of stalls within those parking zones. Those total number of stalls is coming from our internal GIS layer. So we're kind of using GIS layers plus the third-party APIs and kind of merging them together to get that calculation of parking availability. And then, so how we display it is on parkomaha.com. We have a map icon that you're able to click in the top right corner. And you can actually go there and toggle all the layers on and off. And then one of those layers is the parking availability. And it is kind of like a heat map to where the darker blue areas are where you're probably not likely to find a parking spot. And then the lighter blue is where you're probably going to find a parking area. And we actually just launched that recently. So we're just starting to get feedback and see how that's working.
Yeah, what do residents think of it? Any feedback yet?
Yeah, the initial feedback is, hey, like this is great. I am able to kind of pre-plan my trip downtown. If I'm going to dinner, okay, I can kind of see I'll park in this area for this rate, or I'll park over here. Or if I'm going down, we have a newly renovated downtown kind of mall park area. And so it's been a really large parking volume around there in that outdoor space. And so we've had some feedback of, yeah, I went down to Leahy Mall and I was able to find parking relatively easy now.
Well, this is great. So FME is data integration software that pulls data from dozens, hundreds of sources, transforms it, reformats it, and pushes it into a variety of target sources, right?
Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, you're able to extract data out. You can do some kind of custom queries, do a little data manipulation if you have certain field values that you want to change or rename. But yeah, it's definitely allowed us to do a lot more in a lot less kind of time to build things out.
Just architecturally, do you have a warehouse or data lake house? And is FME working in that regard, or are you doing mostly point-to-point type of data movement and transformation?
So right now we're doing mostly point-to-point, kind of just reading our GIS layers, reading the mobile payment providers' APIs. Our future plan is to kind of have that data lake to where we have multiple data coming in from scooters, from parking, and kind of using automated processes through FME to kind of see, are there a lot of parking trips or parking sessions happening? And after that, are people taking e-scooters? And kind of, it would let us kind of see the full picture of, are e-scooters being taken after a parking event, or are bikes being taken? And we can kind of do that analysis kind of end over end.
Yeah, I would think a lot of people, both who work for the city and researchers outside of the city, would probably love to get access to that information and do kind of analysis of life in the urban area. So one more question. We've kind of touched on this, that you're pioneering a real-time parking information system, first in the U.S., and want to know how FME helps manage the city's curb data and provide external stakeholders with accessible real-time information.
Yeah, so recently we have kind of developed and envisioned the OMF's Open Mobility Foundation's curb data specification. It's kind of a new emerging industry standard for curb management. And so how we're managing it with FME is we have a AWS database that our APIs are built on. And so we take our GIS data for parking zones and whether it's no parking, loading or unloading, what type of unloading. Is it only for e-bikes? Is it for electric vehicles or is it for delivery vehicles? And so what FME does is every time we make new additions to our curb front in kind of our metered areas, we're able to push that information out real time. Our goal right now is to parking providers. And so the parking providers would be reading the city's real-time information for rules, regulations, rates. Anytime we make an update, that update is reflected in their system. And so if we make an update for a dynamic rate change, as an example, that rate would be effective immediately in mobile payment providers. And so it's usually how we had to do it before this is we would send an email to each provider, then wait for it to be implemented, and then come back and then test it and then make sure that the rate is accurate. Right now, it's a lot more automated, and we're just able to do kind of changes on the fly. Another aspect of that is to push out real-time availability to loading and unloading delivery drivers. And that kind of allows us to get real-time information for delivery drivers, has given us the option to filter out where areas are and the congestion. In Omaha, it's been historically unloading and unloading delivery has been taking place in the middle of travel lanes. And so we're trying to push out this real-time information to get these delivery vehicles into the curb lanes and out of the travel lanes. We have a streetcar coming, and so we're trying to reduce the in-travel lane congestion and make it safer for drivers, for parkers, for scooter riders, and then also for the delivery drivers and push them more towards the inside of the curb.
So do I hear you right that the city actually can change the parking rates dynamically using this system?
Yes. Yeah. With the system, we would be able to. Currently, we just went through a rate overhaul. And so we don't necessarily change rates. But if we got to that point, this would allow us to, dynamically change rates based on time of day, based on the activity, based on really kind of whatever information that we have already.
These are for city-owned parking garages or parking spaces or for third-party providers or both?
These would be for city-owned. Yeah, so all the on-street parking, we do dynamically change rates. One of our tiers is an economy zone in our kind of event district. And so that would be an example for us where we would dynamically change a rate is where normally it's 50 cents an hour, but then when a special event or large event comes in, we change it to a $5 event rate, and we're able to dynamically do that based on when we get the schedule for the events and then push it directly to the mobile payment providers.
Oh, and those mobile payment providers, those are the stations in parking areas that people go and pay?
Yeah. Yep. So if it's a event, you'll see the $5 rate on your phone if you're paying on your app or at the pay stations. And then once the event's over, it pushes the changes back and it goes back to the normal base daily rate.
And those pay stations, those are city-owned, as you said, right?
Yep. Those are city-owned pay stations.
Well, Jacob, this is all really quite sophisticated. It makes me want to come to Omaha to see how it all works.
Yeah, we have a lot going on here. I would definitely, Omaha is a growing city, and I definitely would recommend anybody to come visit here.
Thank you, Jacob, so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on. Also, thanks to everyone listening. We hope you took a lot away from today's podcast. For further information on what we've talked about, please head over to fme.safe.com. We'll be back next week with another episode in our podcast series. Until then, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all major platforms and follow the conversation on our socials at EM360 Tech on X and LinkedIn. And for more daily content, head over to em360tech.com.